welcome to Swanzey Then and Now. I'm your host, Jody Turner, and Lee Dunham is now my co-host. Welcome, Lee.
I'm elevated now.
Yes, you are. Yeah. Well, at first when we started doing these shows, it was going to be me as the host, and Lee had all kinds of photographs, and he was going to help out. But Lee, you've been doing so much that I really think that it's sort of a co-thing now. So,
Well,
but it's more
fun.
than just a co-thing. It's a social thing.
Yes.
A social event. And that's what we're going to talk about today is social clubs in Swansea, New Hampshire.
And plenty of them.
And plenty, yeah. And wait until you hear what they were called and what they did and some of the names of them. So we're going to start out today. We have a lot of photographs to share, but we're going to start out today with the military. Yes, the military may not be a specifically social small town club, but there were a lot of people that were in the military that lived in Swansea. So the first picture that we have is at the Bridges Inn. And this is a picture of the military. There, they must have been having, it's probably Memorial Day, something like that.
That's on the lawn at Whitcomb Hall, facing the Bridges Inn.
Oh, that's right.
That's
That is
exactly
right.
where that is.
Yeah, yeah. It looks like a long distance, but it's really not. It's very, very close.
No.
And then we have another one from WW2. These were people that were from Swansea.
After the war is over, they got them all up in their dress uniforms, and you see some women in there too. Mm-hmm. So.
Which I think is wonderful. And I do have a relative in there. And then this next one is what we see every year at the Old Home Day. And I hope it never ends. I know someday there are going to be fewer, but I hope there'll be some people that will fill in as well. But this is the Legion Band from Keene, but this is Old Home Day in Swansea. Yeah. Some of the other things that we have to look at, this is Richardson Park. Now, I think I actually took this picture. This was a bad picture, actually. I think this is after the hurricane.
It shows the building really well. But
It
that's
does, because there's no trees around it.
Yeah. But that's where the picnics used to happen.
An Old Home Day.
An Old Home Day used to happen there every year. They'd have a dance in the hall.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. I looked at some pictures, and they were packed with people. It was just incredible to see.
There's that little cupola or so on one side of it. I had somebody tell me that that's where the band played for the dances. I had.
It could be.
Well, it could be. There's sort of like a stage on the front of that toward the pond.
Yeah, yeah. And the next picture that we have is of the Midway. Now that was on Wilson Pond.
Yes.
And you know, the only reason that I chose this photograph is because I'm sure that people did whatever they did and had groups and had little competitions and.
Well, there was boxing and wrestling and all sorts of stuff going on in North Swansea there.
Yeah.
So. And I never did get to the bowling alley, so.
No, I've heard stories, but that's about it for me too.
I knew it was there. I could hear it, but never. I wasn't.
It's
old
amazing
enough
to see how many places had bowling alleys.
Yeah.
You know. Okay, so the next picture is of Whitcomb Hall. Now, the reason that we chose this one is because of the Granges that started. So we have the Grange here at Whitcomb Hall.
Right. The Lincoln Grange was met in Whitcomb Hall.
Mm-hmm. And then the next photographed is the Goldenrod Grange that's in Swansea Center. And those were both, I mean, like all of these were places where people could meet. There were groups that could get together. And it feels more like people really took an interest in each other. Yeah,
and part of the Grange mission was to, have a place for the community to come together. So that's why they had suppers. The meeting house monument that's up on top behind the Carpenter home, that was done by one of their committees. So they were active in the community.
Right, right. And a lot of these groups made some really strong efforts to make a difference in the community.
Yeah.
Right. So our next photograph, here we go. We got the Indians, and I can't remember, what are they called again? The Pequot?
Pequot Tribe number 50.
50, okay.
Of the Improved Order of Redmen. That's the whole name.
So what did they do?
Well,
or how did that come about?
That comes about in, I don't know the origins of Swansea, but it comes about out of the Sons of Liberty. Now, Sons of Liberty, we think Boston Tea Party, and how did those Tea Party guys dress up? They dressed up as Indians, their version of what they thought Indians were. And so that's how this Improved Order of Redmen come. And incidentally, you had to be a white man to be a red man. Right. So, but it was a fraternal organization, and it had secret meetings. The meeting house was called the Wigwam.
And do you remember where that
the
was
leader,
in Swansea?
It was actually the old West Swansea AA building that got torn down a couple of years ago. Before it was the West Swansea AA, the Redmen owned it. Actually, they didn't own it, I don't believe. Somebody else owned it. But it was their clubhouse, if you will, Wigwam. And their whole language was different, was Indian. You know, the leader was a sachem. The treasurer was the keeper of wampum. And you had to pay dues, so many wampum. You know,
This is what they did, though.
But and it like so many other organizations, part of it, what it did, it was sort of an insurance to the people, the members of the tribe, if you will, because if somebody died, everybody had to pay, you know, so much, and that all went to the deceased family. So it was an early insurance sort of setup.
Yeah, the thing that I see about these clubs is something I saw it on NPR the other day. It was on empathy, and you know, it just seems like people really cared about each other, and they cared what they did and how it affected other people. It's just, I kind of miss some of that. I mean, we do still have it, but not so much as like back then. They were all in it together, pretty much. They had to.
Communities were closer.
Right.
Then. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and then there's this. This sign that you had, let's see.
There it is.
The amusement room,
They're
amusement rooms are private, for use by the red men only.
Only the red men only.
Yeah.
That was by order of the tribe.
Yeah.
So, that's what ended up becoming the assembly hall, if you will, for the West Swansea AA, where there was pool and
showers.
TV
Isn't
and showers.
Right.
Really, it's really interesting. We'll do a whole show on the West Swansea AA at some point in time. But you think about it, and I wasn't from West Swansea, so why did they have showers? Well, let's think of the time. You know, we're talking early 40s when they took over the building, and running water was a little less
Sketchy.
prevalent
Yeah.
in people's houses. So, hey, come over there and have a shower.
Right.
It's you know, where they saw their first television set. You know.
Yeah. Community.
It was really interesting and pretty neat.
Yeah. So the next picture that we have is the Priscilla Club.
Yes.
Now that changes it a little bit.
Yeah, it does. We don't know much about the Priscilla Club. These pictures, and a lot of this started in my mind when I started looking at the pictures from the 200th anniversary parade. Well, they all had floats. The Priscilla Club, I get this from Ernest Perry, and he got it from his mother, that they were sort of a high society women's club. Doesn't know really what they did.
And if anybody knows what they did, please let us know.
But I think if you look at you have to get some old newspapers and stuff, and there's a lot of society stuff in the old newspapers. News was a little bit kinder back then, so we'd talk about society gossip. So
Right.
somebody was over at somebody's house or whatever. Kind of neat.
Yeah. Do they have any of those newspapers at the Swansea Historical Museum?
I think there are some there. I've got some copies that I have that my grandmother kept up, and you know, who knows? I think we'd probably find some at the Sentinel.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, right.
Or the library
Yeah.
might have them on microfiche.
Right. Okay, so let's go to the fire departments. So we had a few different fire departments, musters and groups here. So these guys are the Swansea firefighters. I don't have a year.
Yeah, I don't. With them in white, but looking at it's
But they had white
motorized.
pants
It's
in the
motor.
pictures.
It's motorized equipment. So at this point, we're probably the 20s or 30s, and you know, it was as much a social club, and it still is today.
Right.
I mean, they have barbecues and banquets and stuff still for themselves. So.
Yeah.
But they did that back then too.
Right. And then we have the muster teams or
Yeah,
muster
the muster team when I was
Yeah.
a kid was big.
Uh-huh.
I mean, really big. And the old muster truck is gone now, but those guys went all through Whately, was it Hadley, Mass. There's a whole group of them.
So what would they
Keene
do?
had one. So
what was
they
it
come
like? What would they do? They
They did
work on
what they
burning
call
buildings, or
no, it's a fireman's muster, and they had different events. Midnight alarm. They put a pile of clothes in the middle of the road of the place there, and everybody has to go in and put on boots, jacket, helmet, get on the truck. Truck starts, and they drive down the other end for
when
time.
was the last time we did this in Swansea?
Oh, probably the 80s or 90s, early 90s. You know, and as far as West Swansea, they had stopped before that.
That sounds kind of interesting.
But Keene was still doing it.
Right.
It got a little bit hard. I think there's still versions of it going on in Mass, but it gets a little bit, I mean, people can get hurt.
Right. Well, I mean, you could try to do it
We used to
safely
do
and-
stuff at Old Home Day, the fire department back when I was chief, that we did a muster for the Old Home Day, but it was a modified thing where it was all done with just hand, you know. See, everybody would run out and hook hoses together and then flow water. And if you did it fast enough and hit the target, you won. Or if you didn't get things quite screwed together, somebody got wet.
Hey, it's the fun
But
of
that's
it.
how you did it.
Yeah, yeah. We'll have to keep that
water
in mind.
would- water would be
Maybe
coming-
somebody out there would like to do something on one of these events. You never know.
And I think they modified it a little bit because they put a gurney in there and they did a stretcher event.
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
Well, again, it's just a thought. I'm not saying you have to do it. It's just a thought. Okay, let's look at one of the floats that they had in the 200th anniversary. This was the Whitcomb Hall, not Whitcomb Hall, but Whitcomb House.
Yeah, this is it's my old house, and it was done by the daughters of Joshua Whitcomb, which I always thought was weird because Joshua Whitcomb wasn't a real person. He was a fictitious person made up by Denman Thompson.
So what did this group do?
I don't know. I thought when I came across
I wonder if
this,
they
that's when I
promoted.
found out about it.
Well, maybe somebody out there knows more about this too, but maybe they promoted.
I mean, they had a
Whitcomb
good time
things.
that day.
Yeah.
I mean, they
Maybe
had
it was
a
just
reunion.
maybe it was like a book club. They just got together
They
to
had a
whatever
reunion.
read books, but you
Yeah.
know,
They had a reunion at the house that day. I know
Yeah.
that.
on the anniversary.
Well, yeah, that same day of the parade.
Yeah. Huh. We have the birthday club.
The birthday club, my grandmother had this picture in her house.
Is
I
your
thought it was-
grandmother in this picture?
My grandmother's not in this.
Okay.
Lucy Carpenter is in it. And so that dates it probably the early 20s, maybe just before that. But I thought it was always the next door house to me, and it's not. We've looked at the doors and stuff, it's not it. I don't know where exactly that is, but what is the birthday club? Well, birthday club is you pay dues, I think like a nickel. And then on your birthday, I don't know if they all came to your house or you went to somebody else's, but it rotated around and you'd have a dinner and desserts and whatever.
Nice.
So it makes sense, birthday club, it would happen at your house, but
Right.
that might be a little intense.
Well, if you planned on it, you knew that it was going to happen. You could have exactly what you wanted.
Yes.
You know, you could have all the decorations and
But you
everything
see
like
they
that.
all, probably that's the way they dressed anyway, but
Right.
they seem to be.
Well, I think people dressed up a lot more
Yeah.
for a lot of things. You know, even in some of the research that I was doing, somebody was talking about one of the farmers, and that the farmer wore, or a carpenter wore a regular white shirt every day and a bow tie, you know, to work every single
My
day.
grandfather's helper, Tom Fairhurst, white overalls,
Right.
white shirt, bow tie.
Yeah. How many people would you see doing that today?
I just remember that
Yeah.
to this day.
Yeah. Next photo is baseball.
Yeah.
So,
Now, baseball was big. If you didn't know this, baseball, we had West Swansea, but this is
I think
the
this is East Swansea, yeah,
This
because
is-
there was actually a baseball field in back of the community house, from what I
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah, this is the East Swansea team. You may know somebody in
I
there.
do actually. I didn't find this photograph, but you had brought it in, and
Yeah.
I was looking at the photograph, and the very first person that I see is my grandfather, Clarence Forcier. He is the first one that you see on the top row on the left-hand side, and
See, I wasn't even looking at it. I was looking at lanes.
Right. And then, so my grandfather, Forcier,
Yeah.
married Eleanor Lane, and there's 2 lanes in this photograph, and I kind of wonder if that's how they might have met. You never know.
Possibly.
Because this was East Swansea. Yeah. Interesting, interesting. Okay, another one that we have is the 70s Club.
Yeah, that's the over 70s.
Over
Club.
70s, okay.
And this club, they met or had a party at the library. Now, in this picture, George and Lucy aren't visible, but in another picture, if there's one other in there, they are. Yeah, they're off to the, on the left-hand side. But if you had to be 70 years old to get to this party, there was a note on the back of the photograph to, I think it was, I don't know if it was Fleet Eastman, it was an Eastman anyway, and that goes back into my side of the family.
Another name?
Well, yeah, the Whitcombs married an Eastman, and yeah,
Okay.
there we go. But it said something to the effect that, I see that you're going to be 70 in December. Maybe something's wrong, and you can come to the party anyway. Because November, I think, is when they had those.
That's November? That looks pretty warm for November. But maybe it was a warm year, you never know.
But they're all dressed up in
Yeah.
their suit and ties.
Yeah, but the girls are wearing dresses, no jackets on them. Yeah. And the last group that we're going to touch on today, well, not last, but getting towards the end, is the Scarlet Marauders, or some of the bugle teams that we had. So this is a younger group.
Yeah, this right here, the drum says West Swansea Drum and Bugle Corps. I was looking at this earlier, so
Right.
I know what it says,
Do you
though I can't read
recognize
it.
anybody in that photograph?
I don't, but I'm sure somebody does.
Right.
They started out as a fife and drum, and I've actually been called on the carpet that no, it didn't. Yes, it did. This is from Clara Gamarlo herself, who started it in 1941 as the West Swansea Girls Fife and Drum Corps. Why just girls at that point? Well, in 1941 we got into the war. Boys weren't just around that much. So, but after the war, to
The
keep
boys came back.
Well, to keep the interest of the girls, the boys came. So, the Drum and Bugle Corps was brought in at that point, and then at some point in time, the name changes to Scarlet Marauders, and that's what we remember.
Right.
And you might remember.
I do
too.
remember them, yeah.
And they were really big. I mean,
Yeah,
they
I don't
were
know-
in the Drum and Bugle Corps. They won first place, and
Right.
they did.
They were incredible. I mean,
And
I
they-
remember them when I was in my young teenage years, and I just thought they would be around forever.
I mean, they had their own bus. They
Right.
drove.
And the outfits they had,
Yeah.
they were beautiful. Yeah, and actually at the Swansea Historical Museum, they have a couple
Yeah,
of
they have
outfits there.
some of their outfits. They have some of the horns that are still that
Mm-hmm.
have been brought over.
Yeah.
That was something that kids had something to do and really had they had fun.
Yeah,
They-
when you
and
listen
they really
to people,
did it well too.
Right, and yeah, when you listen to some of the people that were in the Marauders, they have such pride.
Yeah.
And they really cared about what they did, and they loved the person who conducted it. I can't remember what his name was, but
Oh, that was Len Ruffle.
okay.
He took over after Clara.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, the admiration that they had for everybody in the group, but it would be so great to have some kind of a reunion for them,
Well, it'd be nice.
maybe at the Swansea Historical Museum.
At the museum or at the site of
Or,
the
right,
West
it's right around the
Swansea
corner,
AA.
really.
That if you ever looked at that building on the left-hand side, that was the Drum Corps Hall. So you went up to the second floor on that, and that's where they practiced
Right.
and all their
I
equipment
remember
was there.
hearing them practice, yeah.
Well, they
And I
used to
didn't even live
march-
in Swansea.
I've got pictures of them marching down the street to practice.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you could go over there and get a parade almost any time.
Yeah. We have a couple more pictures of the Marauders at a different time. Let's see. So this, what are these guys?
That's the Improved Order of Redmond. Pequot
Oh, that is
Tribe
the,
number
I
50.
didn't know. I thought
That's
because
their-
they had instruments, so I wasn't sure.
Well, that's their baseball team.
Oh, you're kidding me.
And then
well,
the
'cause
guys,
that's what I saw too.
and the
yeah.
guys in the back with the sashes, those are the members of the tribe.
Oh, wow.
So
well,
they
I got it out of order a little bit,
Yeah.
but I thought that maybe this was another uniform that they had. Yeah. So there's the Marauders.
There's the Marauders
Okay.
again.
Okay.
And
That's early, though.
That's early, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know where these pictures were taken, but they might have been taken over by the Brown Memorial Field.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody that's in it.
And then I think this is at Whitcomb Hall.
This is at Whitcomb Hall, and this is, I think, 1945. I've got a date on that, but that's brand new uniforms.
Yeah.
That's one of the first new, I believe, store-bought uniforms.
Wow.
Because before, all those things were handmade.
Yeah. Wow.
So,
And then we have one more recent photograph. I don't know where this was.
that, I think, comes from the 1983 to
I think it was the 80s.
50th, where they came back.
Right.
They got together and they came back, and they were really impressive.
Right. And from what I read, going back just one moment, in the photograph, I believe that's Darlene Nash.
I think, yes.
That was
right.
the, what do you call that person? The leader. Anyway, somewhere I read that it was Darlene.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I think you're right.
Yeah. And the last photograph that we have is of a more modern group, going backwards though, the reenactment team. I
Right.
do know Steve Schneier, but I don't know all of the other people. But these guys are always at Old Home Day.
Yep.
I know that they go around the area and do presentations for people.
I might be wrong, but I think it's the 4th New Hampshire Regiment, I think.
That sounds familiar? Yep.
I might be wrong.
Yeah. And then the last photograph. This is the last photograph that we have today.
Are you sure? No.
It is for this program, yes. So this is the Swansea Historical Museum. I just wanted to touch on this just a little bit because they have so much information in this museum that I don't know why more people, if they haven't gone by and taken a look.
We're going to try to get more people to come. We're actually looking for more people to sit in the museum too. And a lot of people are worried about that. Well, I don't know anything about it. Well, you don't have to. We'll teach you, or if somebody has a question for you, we'll answer.
Right. Well, it's like this program.
Yeah.
I know some, you know much more, but as I go...
And I don't know it all.
No, I mean, there's so much more information out there.
Yeah.
But as I go on, I have become more close with my dad because we have started going through some of our old photographs and trying to remember who is who, and the names don't always agree, and people had nicknames and different things. So all of this history that we have in Swansea is really kind of interesting. What I would like to see is I would like to see some kind of a fall event. This is just me, but I would like to see some kind of a fall event where we look at history and maybe have a real reunion of people. I know we have Old Home Day and a lot of people come to that, but I would really like to see something happen about history.
Yeah.
And the ballpark is not a bad place to do it in West Swansea. There's plenty of parking there, and you've got the museum, and they might even be able to open the food booth, like if they wanted to do food or something. I mean, it just seems like it would be a logical place to do something. You look at have you thought of this before?
Well, I'd like to see something do. I always thought of trying to get a sort of like a Saturday morning coffee or whatever, and either at Whitcomb Hall or whatever, just to, come in. I'll talk some, but I want to listen some.
Exactly.
People have stories that. I'm only 60,
Right.
and there are people that are older than me. They know some things that I haven't heard.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I'm going to plan to do more so in the near future is starting a memory booth. So at events like we're having a Grange Day, or any of the open houses that we have at Whitcomb Hall or at the Grange or Old Home Day, if people are interested in sharing their stories, I'm willing to videotape them. And it's nothing to be scared about. It's something where you can share something that will last pretty much forever if we tell the story. If we don't, it could be lost. And from the people that I interviewed at the ice cream social that we had at Whitcomb Hall, it was so enlightening to hear how proud they were of where they came from. It's just, it makes you feel good.
Yeah, that's part part of what I've done with the Facebook page that I have.
And your
is
Facebook page is called?
Swansea Old Photographs.
Right.
And, you know, I get a hold of people that are, you know, live in Oregon or Washington, but they grew up here and they love seeing the old pictures. And they have lots of information.
Right.
And they just, you know, they'll ask for stuff. Can't always give them what they ask for, but, you know, hey, we try.
Right, right. So how many photographs do we have that you haven't really looked through yet? Is there a lot more photographs that we have to go?
In my house, yeah, well, unfortunately in my house, a lot of them are people that I don't know who they
Right.
are.
But if we bring them out, maybe somebody else will know them. Yeah.
And they may be relatives.
Right,
but
right.
may
Yeah.
not be.
You never
I mean,
know.
but I've got some really neat stuff.
Right.
I mean, the historical side, I put a picture a week ago or whatever about Pearlie Safford and the Hines family.
Yes.
Off Chesterfield.
Right.
That started my mind.
Right.
Okay, how did Pearlie get in Chesterfield?
It's not
'Cause
that
I
far
think of,
from Swansea,
well,
really.
because I think of him from Swansea, and
Right.
I find out his mother was a Hines. Makes sense.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
And they were talking about maple sugaring
Yeah.
off the Hines's meadow.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. It's just so interesting. And I hope that you folks will share your stories with your relatives when you get together for whatever holidays that you get together. Or if people still have gatherings, family reunions, I love them. You know, like share your stories with people because, again, if you don't share them, they may get lost. And I've heard it so many times, I wish I had. And
Yeah.
if, you know, like you and I, we both thought, like, I wish I had talked to my great-grandfather, my grandfather Lane. I wish I had known to ask him questions. So that's what we need to do is sit down, take some time to relax, and enjoy our history. So today we've been in Swanzey Then and Now. I hope you'll join us again. And thank you, Lee. We'll have much more to tell you or to share.